Great. How did it feel for you guys to actually have such a panel assessing you, Mohammad?
Actually, to be selected by such a panel is really an honor and really is a privilege and makes me very proud, actually.
Sarah asked you a question.
Yes.
What was the process that you've been through prior to the competition?
The couple of days before the day of the final was really tough because I had so many ideas in my head about the topic itself, and I wanted to choose just one idea for the final, and it was really difficult. I had to build the different presentations and rehearse them and then start comparing them, and at the end I just made a toss and selected one presentation.
Really? Yeah. That's an interesting way to choose.
Yeah.
So what were the ideas you were actually picking from?
Yeah, I was picking from the transistor to explain the idea of the transistor, which was behind the invention of the computer and the electronic devices that we use in our everyday life. And the second choice was about the sensors that are used in the automobiles to fire the safety airbags. And the one which I chose for the final was an achievement made by a physics scientist, a physicist, that for the first time in the human history was able to capture one atom and control its motion. And that actually opened the door for a new technology that we hear about today, which is the nanotechnology, which will have many applications in the future.
The brain's wave.
Yeah.
All right. Very interesting. We're going to have a demo of your presentation, but let's check out the idea of Hazem. Of course, we must also announce that Hazem was the official winner of the FameLab competition, and his first award is actually to be the representative of Egypt in the UK in this international competition, and it's going to be a great responsibility, I would say, more than an honor, of course, to you, but it's a huge responsibility as well. And the first runner-up, who's also going to accompany you in your trip to England, would be Mohammad. So congratulations for both of you.
Thank you.
So what about you? How were the few days prior to the competition for you, Hazem?
Well, of course, the few days prior to the competition were quite packed with excitation for the preparation. I also was everybody was a little bit
nervous?
Yes, and we were a little bit hesitant about the choice of topic because in the finals you want the topic to be very impactful. You wanted to touch everybody's lives. You wanted to be something. The audience was much larger in number than any other heat, so you wanted to touch the greatest number of lives. So I eventually settled on a topic that I think would have been the most relevant to people among my choices, which was the power of imagination, and how that power is now very scientifically detectable by certain brain scanners, and how this power to imagine can actually help people who have certain handicaps or incapacities to be reintegrated into the community by controlling machines that only depend on our power of imagination for motion.
Explain that, because it's quite interesting.
All right.
And are we talking about imagination to the extent of going into hallucinations, or just or imagining a rosy world?
The difference between hallucinations and imagination is that imagination is a voluntary or an action that is performed by the brain without any external causes. It's something that you choose to think of out of your own free will. It's like a dream, but a dream comes to you. Imagination, you go to it. So imagination causes certain changes in the brain that are very much detectable. For example, when you imagine that you are eating an apple, you trigger in your brain the same centers that are triggered by eating a real apple. And this is something that machines can detect, machines like functional MRIs and other brain scanners. And scientists are now using this ability to communicate with people who cannot speak, for example, only by reading their minds or their brain patterns, the patterns of brain activity in certain states.
We're going to get more into that, but I have Ahmed waiting for a while now. Hello, Ahmed.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I would like to congratulate each of the persons available with you on the show now, especially Hazem. Congratulations for this great success. And what is good? I just had a question about what is the next step after this.
Good question. Thank you, Ahmed. All right. We've already had a bit of an info about what they're going to do next, and that is to spread the idea of simplifying science to the public. We're going to know exactly how, in practical terms, you guys are planning to do this, and if this project is set to continue in Egypt, what's next. But let's finish up this idea first, because I really want to understand. So how are you going to use the people who have...
Let me tell you about one experiment that will tell you the extent of imagination and what it can do. In one of the experiments, they used a sector of patients that are in a state that we call post-coma unresponsive. They are people who go into comas, but then they never regain consciousness. They wake up and their brains start acting again, but they do not become conscious. And because they lose consciousness for the rest of their lives, they are deemed by some courts to be dead. And sometimes even life support and food is stopped, and their life ends.
And some others actually have raised the idea of euthanasia to actually end it up once they reach that stage.
Exactly, that's very true. And what they did with that experiment is that they used this brain scanner, the functional MRI, to detect brain activity of some of these patients. And they asked these patients that if they cannot move, if they can hear us, to at least imagine something.
Oh, okay.
And they did that, and they discovered that 40% of the patients in that state were actually conscious, and they were able to imagine. And through a simple language, they asked them, for example, if they wanted to say yes to imagine playing tennis, if they wanted to say no to imagine walking in their houses.
Amazing.
They were able to communicate with them to understand whether they are in pain or not, whether they have any needs, whether they accept ending their lives or not. So this technique actually brought a lot of practical uses in ethics and in the as human to live. So in their case, imagination saved their lives, and the applications.
And how did you translate this idea into a simple 3-minute presentation?
That was challenging, remember? That was part of the challenge. But I tried to simplify it as much as possible without all of the scientific jargon. And I just stressed on the fact that neuroscience now is proving that imagination is a very tangible power. It's a very tangible phenomenon that we can measure and imply in a lot of our inventions and interventions.
Perfect. Okay, Doaa, a lot of questions have came in actually from Sarah and Ahmed about what's next. We know that we've so far achieved a great leap forward. We've introduced the competition, and we've had great examples of Egyptian youth all succeeding. I must say that the choice was very hard for the panel. The 10 finalists were all more than excellent, and actually extra awards were given out to the participants, like an audience pick that was chosen and a student award we're going to talk about. But tell us first, what's your planned step after this stage?
Actually, we're planning, with the help of finalists, to have like a monthly activity in which we will invite people to attend, like evenings at cultural centers, in which they can present their ideas or just talk about science in the interesting way they used to talk about science.
It's going to be a voluntary symposium or, meeting.
Yes. Yes. So we're meeting actually next week to plan our next 6-month activities, and this will be announced as well to public audience to attend.
Great. So basically the idea did not stop at the competition, at winning, or at hopefully them going to England representing Egypt, but it will be a continuous process to benefit much more people. Mohammad, what about you? What are your future plans after this great achievement?
Actually, the whole FameLab idea, I can say, somehow triggered some interest in the media and trying to communicate the things that I'm interested about in the science and in my studies, and try to communicate those ideas to the public through the media. So I started thinking about studying in parallel something that has to do with the media, to develop my skills in this area and to use it in the future.